Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time we're tackling business growth and customer service. And get this, we've got two pretty different sources we're going to be pulling from.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got this practical guide on something called an automatic customer coach.
Okay.
And then we're also going to be pulling from The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Wow. Talk about an unlikely pairing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a modern business strategy meets ancient military wisdom.
I know it's a fascinating juxtaposition, I
Yeah.
think, for sure. Um, but I think we're going to find some really interesting connections here.
Definitely. But okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, though, let's break down this whole customer coach thing for our listeners a little bit. What exactly are we talking about here?
Sure. So basically, it's a system for managing all of your customer interactions, really from the moment someone first, encounters your business, all the way through to ideally them becoming like a raving fan who tells all their friends about you.
Okay, so it's not just about making the sale, it's about building those relationships.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about the entire customer journey, like you're saying. And the guide we're looking at today lays out 6 key areas you can really focus on to boost your company's profits. Um, it even claims that you can double your profits just by making some strategic tweaks.
Double. All right, now you've got my attention.
Yeah.
What's the secret?
Well, the secret sauce here is compound growth. So the guide suggests that you aim for a 12% increase in each of these 6 areas. And, well, the math kind of speaks for itself.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So let's break down these 6 kind of magic steps then. Step 1 is all about prospects. So that seems pretty basic, right? I mean, you need people who are interested in what you're selling before you can have any customers.
Right, exactly. But instead of just throwing more money at advertising like we traditionally think of, the guide encourages honestly, some really creative and outside the box approaches to increasing that pool of potential customers.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. So think chatbots, those online quizzes that you see everywhere. Basically anything that provides value to a potential customer in exchange for their contact information. And that also helps you gather insights about their needs and their interests.
Okay, so I'm picturing like one of those personality quizzes you see on social media, what kind of pizza topping are you?
Exactly.
But instead of it just being a fun little distraction, you're actually gathering valuable data about your audience.
Right. And that data allows you to then personalize your marketing messages so you can offer products or services that are truly relevant to each individual.
So, for example, if you run a bookstore and your quiz reveals that someone loves historical fiction, you can tailor your future communications to highlight new releases in that genre, send them special offers.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're getting it. It's about making those interactions feel more human and less like a generic sales pitch.
You know what this reminds me of, actually? Something from The Art of War.
Oh, yeah.
Sun Tzu talks about the importance of knowing the terrain before you engage in battle.
And in business, your terrain is your customer. So
Yeah.
the more you know about them, their needs, their preferences, the better equipped you are to win them over.
Okay, so we've got a steady flow of prospects coming in thanks to our genius quizzes and our chatbots.
Right.
Now, how do we actually turn those prospects into paying customers? That's step 2, right?
Absolutely. And this is where exceptional customer service comes into play.
Yeah.
It's about nurturing those relationships, building trust, and showing people that you genuinely care about their experience with your business.
So it's not just about closing the deal and moving on. It's about creating that sense of loyalty that's going to keep them coming back for more.
Right. This is where things get interesting, I think. Step 3 focuses on price. And you might be surprised to hear that the guide actually recommends that you increase your prices
What?
by 12%.
Hold on, wait a minute. Isn't that a surefire way to scare customers away? I mean, everyone loves a bargain, right?
It might seem counterintuitive, but the key here is to add value that justifies the price increase.
Hmm.
So the guide gives an example of a craft brewery that uses a very specific bottle distilling process as a selling point. It's actually something that most breweries do, but they've turned it into this kind of marker of their commitment to quality and attention to detail.
So they're not just selling beer, they're selling an experience.
Exactly. They're creating a perception of exclusivity in craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And that perception allows them to command a premium price.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these seemingly small tweaks can really add up. We've got our prospects, we've nurtured them into loyal customers, and we've even managed to raise prices without scaring anyone off. What's next?
All right, so step 4 is all about increasing the quantity per purchase. And this is where the guide introduces the concept of funnels.
Okay, funnels. I've heard that term thrown around a lot, but I'm not sure I totally understand what it means. Can you break that down for me and our listener?
Yeah, so think of a funnel as a pathway you create to guide customers towards larger orders. It's about strategically presenting them with options that complement their initial purchase.
So if I walk into a bakery to buy a loaf of bread and I suddenly find myself leaving with like a bag full of pastries and a birthday cake,
Yes,
that's a funnel in action.
you got it. The guide uses an example of a cleaning company that partners with a window cleaning service. So when someone books their house cleaning, they're subtly prompted to consider adding window cleaning as well.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. It's convenient, it makes sense, and it increases the overall value of the transaction for both parties.
It's kind of like that classic upsell, would you like fries with that?
Exactly.
But in a more sophisticated way.
Yeah, for sure. It's about creating that win-win for both you and the customer. You increase your revenue, and they get a more comprehensive solution to their needs.
Okay, so far we've covered attracting prospects, converting them into loyal customers, strategically pricing our products, and encouraging larger purchases. What's step 5 all about?
Step 5 focuses on increasing the number of purchases per year. In other words, how do you go customers coming back for more again and again?
So this is where loyalty programs come in, right? And those email marketing blasts.
Yeah, those can be really effective tools for sure. But the guide encourages a more proactive approach. So it's about anticipating customer needs and exceeding their expectations at every touch point.
Okay, so can you give me a specific example of what you mean?
Sure. So imagine a company that sells professional certifications, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of waiting for customers to remember to renew their certifications, which we all know can be a hassle,
Right.
they send out automated reminders well in advance of the expiration date.
Ah, that's so smart. It takes the pressure off the customer. And it also ensures that they don't, lapse in their certification and then have to start the whole process over again.
Exactly. And here's where we can connect back to the art of war again, actually. So Sun Tzu stresses the importance of utilizing your strengths and exploiting your enemy's weaknesses.
And in the business world, our enemy would be our competitors.
Precisely. And one of the biggest weaknesses many businesses have is a lack of attention to customer retention. So by proactively addressing customer needs and exceeding their expectations, you're essentially turning your competitor's weakness into your strength.
I love that. It's like using your competitor's momentum against them, like a judo move or something.
Exactly. And the best part is, it's a win-win for everyone involved. Happy, loyal customers are really the foundation of any successful business.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've made it through 5 of the 6 steps to double those profits.
We're almost there.
What's the final step all about?
That's right. So step 6 is all about margins, making sure we're not just bringing in more revenue, but that we're actually keeping more of it too.
Okay, so this step sounds like it requires a deep dive into all those nitty-gritty details that business owners sometimes try to avoid.
It can be a bit daunting, I'll be honest. But the payoff is really well worth the effort. The guide highlights a few key areas to focus on. One is exploring supplier discounts, negotiating better rates whenever possible. Another is automating tasks wherever you can, which can free up your time and resources for those more strategic initiatives.
Automation is such a big buzzword these days. It feels like there's a software solution for just about everything.
There is. And while it's definitely important to choose the right tools for your specific needs, there's no doubt that automation can be a total game changer when it comes to improving efficiency and, like you said, reducing those costs.
And I think the guide also provides a really interesting example of a shoe company that uses a chatbot to address sizing issues proactively.
Oh yeah, that's a brilliant strategy. By helping customers find the right fit the first time, they dramatically reduce the number of returns they have to process. And think about all the time and money they save on shipping and handling. Not to mention, creating a better customer experience which can lead to increased loyalty and repeat business.
Yeah, it's a win-win all around. So optimizing your margins isn't just about cutting costs, it's also about creating a smoother, more enjoyable experience for your customers, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've officially covered all 6 steps to doubling profits. But there's one more piece of the puzzle that I'm really interested in. The guide talks about turning your customers into ambassadors for your
Oh
business.
yeah, I love this part.
Yeah.
This goes beyond simply satisfying your customers. It's about creating this community of passionate advocates who are actively recommending your products or services to others.
It's like building an army of loyal supporters who are out there spreading the word about your
I
business.
know, right? There's this great quote from a Harley-Davidson annual report, actually, that really captures this idea perfectly. It says, "Retention is for wimps. We measure the percentage of customers who have our name tattooed on one of their body parts.
Wow, that's dedication. Okay, maybe a tattoo's a little extreme, but I get the point. They're not just looking for repeat customers, they're looking for true fans who are like, you know, deeply connected to the brand and want to share it with the world.
For sure. And how do you cultivate that level of loyalty and excitement? Well, the guide suggests a few strategies. Social media contests and quizzes are a great way to encourage engagement and get people talking about your brand.
Oh, yeah, I can see how that would work. People love to share their experiences and their opinions online, especially if there's a chance to win something.
And another really powerful strategy is offering those referral bonuses.
Yeah.
This incentivizes your existing customers to spread the word and bring in new business for you.
So it's a win-win for everyone. Customers get rewarded for their loyalty, new customers get to discover your amazing products, and your business grows organically through word-of-mouth marketing.
Okay, now you're thinking like a true strategist.
Speaking of strategy, I want to circle back to the art of war for a second. I feel like we've touched on a few connections already, but I'm curious to explore this a bit deeper. For example, Sun Tzu talks a lot about deception in warfare.
Yeah.
How does that translate to the world of modern business?
Well, it's not about being dishonest or misleading, of course,
Hmm.
but it is about understanding the psychology of persuasion and using that knowledge to influence customer behavior in a way that benefits both parties.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, so think about the way that products are displayed in a grocery store. Essential items like milk and bread are often placed at the back of the store, which forces you to walk past all sorts of tempting treats along the way.
Oh, so that's why I always end up with a cart full of chips and cookies when I go in for just a gallon of milk.
Yeah, exactly. The grocery store is using your own psychology against you.
It's brilliant and a little bit evil.
Well, it's definitely effective. And the guide we're discussing today really delves into these kind of subtle psychological techniques, especially as they relate to marketing and sales. It even uses the term pre-persuasion, which basically means setting the stage for a desired outcome before even making a direct request.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Can you give me an example of pre-persuasion in action?
Sure. So imagine you're browsing a website and you see a pop-up that says 9 out of 10 customers agree that this product is life-changing.
Wow. Okay, that's definitely going to get my attention. And even if I don't like consciously believe it, seeing that statistic might make me more likely to consider buying the product, right?
Exactly. It's about creating a favorable context that makes your message more persuasive.
So it's kind of like how Sun Tzu advises against attacking fortified cities directly, right? It's much more effective to weaken their defenses and influence their morale before you actually engage in battle.
That's a brilliant analogy. You're starting to see those connections between these seemingly disparate worlds, which is what's so fun about this whole thing.
Yeah, this is making me think about all the subtle ways we can influence customer perception and behavior. And it's not about manipulation, it's about understanding how people think and using that knowledge to create a more positive and profitable experience for, like you said, for everyone involved.
I totally agree. And that brings us back to Sun Tzu's emphasis on knowing the terrain, right? We talked about how that applies to understanding your customer, but it also applies to understanding the competitive landscape.
So just as a general needs to be aware of the enemy's movements and strategies, a business owner needs to be keeping an eye on what their competitors are doing.
Precisely. You need to be aware of their strengths, their weaknesses, their pricing strategies, their marketing campaigns. This allows you to anticipate their moves and position yourself accordingly.
It's like playing a game of chess. You always have to be thinking a few steps ahead.
Exactly. And Sun Tzu provides some really timeless advice on how to approach this strategic game.
Okay, I'm ready to conquer the business world, armed with the wisdom of Sun Tzu.
Me too.
But before we declare victory, I want to touch on one final point from the guide. It really emphasizes the importance of constantly evaluating and refining your customer coach system.
Yes, that is crucial. The business world is constantly evolving, and your customers' needs and preferences are changing right along with it. What worked yesterday might not work today.
Right, so it's not like a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Right.
It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and improving.
It is. You need to be constantly gathering data, analyzing feedback, and making those adjustments to your strategies and tactics.
It's like a gardener tending to their plants. They're constantly pruning, watering, making sure they have the optimal conditions to thrive.
That's a beautiful analogy. And just as a gardener takes pride in their flourishing garden, a business owner should take pride in cultivating that thriving customer base.
Okay. I feel like this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of business growth and customer service. We've learned about the 6 steps to doubling profits, the power of turning customers into ambassadors, and the surprising relevance of the art of war to, like, these modern business challenges.
I know, it's been a really fun conversation. I love these kind of unlikely pairings.
Me too, me too. And I think there's so much more to unpack here, so much more to learn from both of these sources.
Absolutely.
But before we send our listeners off to, go conquer their respective industries, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, this idea that every business has like these hidden assets.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Yeah. So sometimes the things that we kind of take for granted in our businesses, the things that seem really ordinary or commonplace to us, can actually be incredibly valuable in the eyes of our customers.
Like that brewery we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
Using their bottle distilling process as a marketing angle, like
Yeah.
who knew that something so seemingly mundane could be such a huge differentiator?
Right. It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
What you see as just a routine part of your operations could actually be a key selling point if you frame it the right way.
Okay, so I'm putting on my thinking cap here. What are some other examples of hidden assets that businesses might be overlooking?
Well, it really depends on the specific industry and the business model. But I can give you a couple of possibilities just to get you thinking.
Yeah.
So let's say you own a small bakery. Maybe you just source all of your ingredients locally, or you use a special family recipe that's been passed down for generations.
Yeah, those are definitely unique selling points, especially in a world where people are, more and more interested in supporting those local businesses and experiencing those like authentic flavors.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or imagine you run a consulting firm. Perhaps you have a unique methodology that you've developed over years of experience, or you have a team with really diverse backgrounds and expertise that allows you to offer a truly kind of holistic approach.
Those are definitely valuable assets that set you apart from the competition.
For sure. The key is to identify those unique elements of your business and then really communicate them effectively to your customers.
Hmm.
You know, don't be afraid to highlight what makes you special.
So it's not enough to just have these hidden assets. You need to actually showcase them,
Right.
weave them into your marketing and your messaging.
Exactly. Yeah, make them like a central part of your brand story. Let your customers know why they should choose you over the countless other options that are out there.
Hmm. This is making me realize that even those small businesses can really compete with those huge companies by focusing on their unique strengths and, just telling their stories authentically.
Absolutely. It's not always about being the biggest or the cheapest. It's about being the best at what you do and really resonating with that target audience.
I love that. I think that's such a great takeaway for our listeners. It's a reminder that success in business is often about focusing on what makes you unique and then finding creative ways to amplify those strengths, right?
For sure, for sure. And it's about being adaptable, innovative, and always willing to learn and grow too, I think.
So, to wrap things up, what's like the one piece of advice you would give to our listener who's ready to put all this wisdom into action?
I would say don't be afraid to experiment. Try new things. See what works. And don't be discouraged by setbacks. The journey of building a successful business is an ongoing process of learning and refinement.
That's great advice. It's all about embracing that journey and, constantly striving to improve.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. Seek out mentors, connect with other entrepreneurs, build a support system that can help you navigate those inevitable challenges, and celebrate the victories along the way.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of knowledge and ideas. It's really amazing how those ancient principles, from the art of war, can still be so relevant today. I mean, it's incredible.
I am right. There's just like this timeless quality to Sun Tzu's strategies. Like they really do transcend like time and context.
Totally, totally. But before we wrap things up and send our listeners off into the world, to conquer their respective businesses and industries, I want to go back to one thing you mentioned earlier. It was this idea that every business has these like hidden assets.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Can you talk a bit more about what that means?
Yeah, so sometimes the things that we as business owners like completely take for granted, things that just seem totally normal or routine to us, well, those can actually be super valuable to our customers.
So, like the brewery we talked about using their bottle distilling process as this like marketing tool.
Exactly, exactly.
I mean, who would have thought that something so, seemingly boring could be such a big selling point.
Right. And it's all about perspective, right? Like what you see as just a totally normal part of doing business could actually be a huge differentiator if you just frame it in the right way.
Okay, so help me out here. What are some examples of these like hidden assets that business owners might be overlooking?
Hmm. Well, it really depends on the specific industry and like what the business actually does, but I can give you a couple of ideas to get you thinking.
Yeah, yeah, please do.
Okay, so let's say you own a small bakery. Maybe you get all your ingredients from, local farms, or maybe you use a like special family recipe that's been passed down for like generations.
Yeah, those are really strong selling points, especially now when people are so interested in supporting local businesses and, wanting those authentic, like homemade flavors.
Exactly. Or, imagine you run a consulting firm, right? Maybe you have this unique methodology that you've developed over years of experience, or maybe your team has like a really diverse set of backgrounds and expertise, which lets you offer a like more holistic approach to your clients.
Yeah, those are all like really strong assets that would, set you apart from the competition.
Totally, yeah. So the key is to, really identify those unique elements of your business and then figure out how to really clearly communicate them to your customers. Don't be afraid to show off what makes you special.
So it's not enough to just like have these hidden assets. You really need to showcase them, right?
Right.
You've got to weave them into your marketing and your messaging.
Exactly. Make them like the center of your brand story. Let your customers know why they should pick you over, all the other options that are out there.
This is making me realize that even small businesses can really hold their own against those big companies just
Sure.
by, focusing on what makes them unique and telling their story authentically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not always about being the biggest company or having the lowest prices. It's about being really good at what you do and connecting with the customers who are looking for exactly that.
I think that's such a great takeaway for our listeners. It's a good reminder that success in business is often about, focusing on what makes you special and then getting creative about how you amplify those strengths.
Exactly. And also about being, adaptable, innovative, and always willing to learn new things and grow, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been such a great conversation, so much to think about. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we sign off?
I would say don't be afraid to just try things out, experiment, see what works, and don't let yourself get discouraged if things don't work out perfectly the first time. Building a successful business is all about constantly learning and, making things better over time.
Such great advice. So it's really about enjoying the process, the journey,
Yeah, I think so.
and always looking for ways to improve.
Exactly. And don't forget, you have to figure everything out all on your own. Find some mentors, talk to other people who are running businesses, build a support system. I think that's really key because it can help you, get through those tough times and celebrate the wins along the way.
That is the perfect note to end on. Thanks again for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. And we'll see you back here next time for another great conversation.